This is Disclosure Now with Arkheim and Brian Tseng, a show where we expose the truths that are nefariously hidden from humanity. Today Audrey Walters joined us to speak with Jim Girouard about his unique method of accessing the Akashic Records to access important information and help others find their purpose. We also discussed the concept of New Earth and what its governance might look like.
Hey, it's Arkheim. Thanks for tuning in to Disclosure Now. I just want to announce to everybody that Time and Space Unlimited is now available for pre-order on Amazon for the Kindle edition. The link is in the description. And then, of course, physical copies will be available to order on July 13th, coinciding with the Full Disclosure Now conference, which is happening the 15th through the 18th at the Serrata Resort in St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, this is happening in like a week and a half now, but if any of you out there are on the fence and are thinking about doing it last minute, it is not too late to get yourself tickets. The link is available below, and we're going to basically let Brian take over here and announce the show.
Yeah, thank you, Arkheim, and super looking forward to your conference. It's not like it's like a week from now. Holy cow. It feels like. But yeah, everyone please go online to fulldisclosuremovement.org, and I'm excited for your book as well. Want to get a hard copy signed of that, brother.
Oh yeah, you're definitely gonna get one.
Thank you. Yep. And Jim is I met him through our very tight-knit community online, and he has a very interesting methodology of seership, and I'll let him describe it. And he's shared some of this methodology with me. It involves using lettered dice and developing out of those a series of words, and then a paragraph of basically information or knowledge that's coming down or to us from other places and entities, sharing it through the readings. And so I'd like to let Jim tell us more about that, and then during our show we can review some of the readings he's shared with me, and then he might have other readings that he hasn't shared with me yet that are very pertinent to our conference and the disclosure movement in general.
And we also have, of course, the lovely Audrey Walters here, who our show, New Earth Light Brigade, is connected to this channel. There's a link on our channel. And yeah, she's going to be here to help supplement the conversation. So just welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. We're so blessed to all be here and having this conversation. Thanks, Jim. And yeah, why don't you kind of tell everybody what you're all about and what you're here for?
Well, thanks for having me on, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you getting the word out.
It's no problem.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to when I was 19 years old. I had a night vision, and I was approached by an angel, and then I saw a building with changing letters on top, and the letters changed to "Beware the Antichrist." And I understood that to mean, like buildings with banks, and it had everything to do with, credit cards and taking out loans and debt. So throughout my whole life, I never got a credit card and I never went into debt. So the other thing I realized was that the changing letters was the bridge between human awareness and being able to access the Akashic Records. So in 2009, I started looking into a book called The Bible Code. And the story about the Bible Code was there was a guy who put every 50th letter together, and he got the name Torah. And then later on, when they developed computers, they were able to gather up thousands of letters and ask questions and get answers. And the story behind that was, on a certain timeline, there was a nuclear war, and the survivors, which are now about 200 years in the future, decided to do something to prevent that nuclear war. So what they did was they put a group of letter sequences together, and they created 5 books, and they sent those 5 books back into the past, and those books were entered into the Bible that we now know as King James Version.
Interesting. I've never heard this before. This is new information.
Yeah. So a big part of the reason why we avoided nuclear war was because these encrypted letter sequences were contained in those 5 books.
Is this where a lot of biblical scholars they speak to the gematria and the patterns, and then also if you look at some of the Hebrew alphabet that when they translate from some of these scripts like the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think, for example, they find that because each of the alphabet has a particular number, then they're getting these number values, and they're using all that to correspond together to find more hidden meaning.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The numerology behind it is actually gematria.
Hi, Jim. It's nice
Hi
to meet
there. Hi.
So I wanted to ask you a question, and I know that you said that you saw angels, and people have many different types of depictions of what they believe as angels. Can you give us a little bit more deeper description about the type of angel that you saw, or do you remember what they looked like when they appeared to you?
Yeah, I saw one angel, I believe it was my guardian angel, and it was a man. And he placed his hand on my head and he said, "Your problems will be over soon." And I saw this brilliant light, and I was looking at the light, but the light was inside me at the same time. So, angels are usually depicted with wings. And I did an entire painting sort of depicting the vision. But in the painting, I used a female with wings because that kind of gives you the idea right away that it was an angel.
I think that's a really interesting depiction. You said that there was light coming out of you, but also outside of you. Then it's kind of like what people talk about when they say like we are source and source is us. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's like you had like this kind of like physical realization of that concept.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was looking at the light and the light was inside me. And it took me a long time to figure out what that meant, but eventually I got the revelation. So let me explain how the dice method works. Going back to the vision where I saw the changing letters on top of the building, and that the changing letters is the bridge between human awareness and the Akashic Records. So with these dice, which have letters on them, you take 26 dice and you throw them 5 times. And when you throw them and they're tumbling through the air, there's your changing letters.
So you basically use this method to be a seer and to be able to find information, like in the same way where
Yes.
people would maybe use tarot cards or a pendulum. You're using this dice method, and you're trying to basically turn people onto this and
Yeah,
help
I,
people
I teach
understand
it
it.
online. The thing about tarot cards is that each tarot card is in a fixed position. So in other words, the death card means change, the magician means magic, the fool means foolish, and so on. But with this dice method, the letters are not fixed because one single letter has no meaning. So instead of being fixed, the method is fluid. So in other words, in the end, you get 130 letters, which means nothing until you start connecting the letters together. And then you put words together, which is on the bottom. And up on the top is the sentences.
Okay, and so how are the words like when you predict them, are they random and then you have to sort of put them together, or does it actually come out like a stream like this? How does it actually work where you get like out of throwing the dice, you get what we're looking at on the screen right now?
Yeah, what you do is with the letters are next to each other, you link them together and make a word. And then, you might get like 30 or 40 words on the bottom, and then put the words together in sentences, and that's how you get your reading. And the thing about these,
That's insane. And so this is how you got all these words right here, like what this says right here.
yes,
And it says, just gonna read it for the people who might just like be listening. It says a wild portal opens at the crossroads of time to show the unfoldments of prophecies, clusters of plots, cults that are satanic, plans to destroy humanity. The true hidden secret within rules of the religions were written to be capturing humanity in the illusioned realities. Connect the dots that unfold the hurdles of Ansos nature about the machines they created to control
There's an
humanity.
SOS nature.
Okay,
To
SOS.
save our ship of a save our ship
Okay,
nature.
got you. To try to unfold the lost hidden secret codes that were once written in the wilderness of time, to have closure once more. In the past, then close the portal with guards and secure it for the protection of human. Okay, now this is really interesting. This is really interesting. So, and Kat could verify this. I told her the other day that there's a portal somewhere in the hot just one of the forests near me right now. I told her how there are stargates around the world, and some of them are like basically just like doors and forests and stuff like that, but they're broken. They're broken, so we can't go through them right now. But what people don't understand was is some of these portals, the other side is still open, and there is a chance that they could figure out how to, like, even though our doorway is kind of messed up, there's a chance they could figure out how to force their way through the doorway. And so I was explaining to Kat how there's going to have to be this thing that happens soon where all these doorways get basically forever closed because what's on the other side of them is really bad. So it's interesting that you're saying that or what the reading said, because it resonates with me to stuff that I've like experienced and stuff that I've talked about, and with these kind of doorways that are hanging out. And I know Audrey has talked about how on other worlds, that's kind of like what used to be a normal thing that you could even play around with. You could jump through the doorways, but unfortunately, that technology or that kind of it's been played around with so much, and such nefarious things have happened with it that it's dangerous to just like have doorways open like that, portals like that. So it's interesting how it says basically they need to be protected and secured, like guards need to secure it. This all resonates with me. And I even remember at Montauk, that was a thing that we would have to do. Like there's a specific mission that I remember where we went to LA, and it was in the timeline where World War II just happened, or World War III just happened, like a neutrino bomb just got dropped and a bunch of people died. And I remember that we went there in a Humvee, and we were driving super fast to a portal that for whatever reason we couldn't get to just the portal, but we're getting there as fast as we can, and we were getting there to secure it, to guard it. So that's like a huge thing that actually happens, is like, portals need to be guarded and secured, and there's all these protocols that need to happen. Like, I don't, people can, if anyone's been on an airplane, you can recall on an airport how you have to go through security, how there's like a thing on the other side, like that scans your luggage and all that. That's what a lot of portal gateways will be like on worlds, or and in places where like the public can actually use portal technology. There's like precautions put in place, and it's highly regulated. So yeah, very, very interesting, all the stuff you say, and it resonates me as true.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that a lot of, I guess, other planets do is that they will have very specific monuments that are used to seal portals in that region. And so the only way that you can actually open up portals is by going to this monument, and there's like a special type of computer system or some sort of system that is set up to where you do something to where to get a portal opener. That's the only place that you can open up a portal, so that you don't have very little portals opening up all over the place. You have one main portal that opens up and stuff, and it's a lot more safer due to the fact that we have not really been maintaining the energy field or the ley line energy fields on this planet. This is would attribute to a lot of many different issues,
Can I say
including
something? I think that we've done the opposite, or we're not us, because it's not us, it's these satanic people that were referred to in this message, but they've done the opposite of maintaining the ley lines. They've abused them, It's been talked about by people like Tyler Koala, Journey to Truth, how they invert these ley lines. They put churches on them that have satanic stuff going on in them. They put like underneath the surface of a regular church. That's how a lot of these churches operate. That's why so many of them have abusive children and stuff. And then also like gambling centers, or casinos, horse racing, where there's like abusive animals happening and stuff like that. All these things. They put these different kinds of things specifically on these ley lines to pervert the energy and invert the energy and change it or whatever into and that's how they pull everybody down into this like more negative vibration. But but very fortunately, we're having the realization of this now as a collective. A lot of people are realizing the whole thing about the ley lines like at the same time in different places, and everybody who is realizing it is getting the word out. And yeah, this is just absolutely a fascinating interview, and this is a real fun one because Brian introduced me to your work, and he knows a lot more about you than I do. So it's like I'm learning about you with the viewers here, and this is fascinating stuff. Is it? Yeah.
Well, let's do another one. Because it seems like there's a progression to these. That one was one of the earlier ones that Jim sent me, and then he sent me this one after that. The Egyptian writings give insights into the way the demons, the walking phantoms are failing. The moths have flown into the fire. Their towers are down. We wash their words away with a towel. We are rattling their cages. We are the new, and that I love that saying. Actually, that saying is a lot of personal meaning to me. We're the new speakers of royalty. We now partake in the process of royalty and law. We are taking control of the portals and preventing the demons from entering into 3D realities. We are riding on a pale horse. We are walking away from their orgy party of dominating innocence and taking our powers back. So, Jim, if you want to weigh in on that, and I'd love to hear what Audrey and Arkheim have to say.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could come up with these kind of sentences while in the awake state, but I just don't have the ability to do it. But what happens when you throw these dice, you're bypassing the thinking mind and you're accessing the subconscious mind, which is connected to the Akashic Records.
That's absolutely incredible. What I think of what this writing says, for what Brian was asking, this is a confirmation of a lot of things to me, and it's actually really inspiring to me. I don't know what this entity is or who this is coming through, but I very much so appreciate it. And I appreciate the communication. It doesn't really matter how you're doing it, Jim. Just the fact that you're allowing this conduit of energy to come through is extremely important, because in your own awareness, you're opening a portal and allowing this information to flow through freely and come through. And yeah, if moths have flown into the fire, my interpretation of that is these people worship this dark energy, and it is very much so like fire. It's dangerous and it can kill you, and it will eventually take you down into it and destroy you, because it's a consuming energy. Whereas love is giving, hatred and like the satanic dark energy that these people have, it's consuming instead of giving. So eventually you either consume yourself or get consumed by the other sharks around you or whatever it is. So the moths flying into the flame makes sense to me, because their urges are, and they aren't able to control. They don't have self-control, and it makes sense that they would do something stupid to me, because they don't have self-control and they're very self-assured, and they think they're a lot smarter and better than they actually are. It says their towers are down. We washed their words away with a towel. We are rattling their cages. We are the new speakers of royalty, and we now partake in the process of royalty. That makes sense with memories I'm having. I'm having of SSP stuff where I'm almost afraid to talk about it, because I know some of it needs to kind of happen in the background now in order for it to all work out in the right way. But yeah, like that's what I'm getting, is like there's going to be a new Earth. That's why we're starting New Earth Light Brigade. There's going to be a new royalty, new new process of thought and new law, yeah, on Earth. And yeah, with the portals and preventing the demons from entering. Okay, Audrey and I just had a conversation about this, and she taught me a lot about, and I already knew this too, but like she just said, like it's such a huge problem. Like you can't underestimate how big of a problem it is all the deep the bad evil energies that entered through the dark magic that was happening at Montauk and other SRA sites where they're doing like invert like these rituals. Like it's really bad. Like we got a lot of like parasitic energies like all over the planet, like all over the place, just screwing with everything all the time. So yeah, it's kind of like basically, and then it's talking about we're taking away from their orgy party of dominating innocence and da da da, and that's a big part of the rituals. It's like people are like, oh, why do they abuse kids? Like they're just these sick people, which yes, of course they are, but it's not like they're just randomly doing it. It's a part of their religion. And they believe in taking the loose energy from them. You know, there's the literal physical aspect of it with the Google Chrome harvesting and everything else, you know, what they're doing. So it's just, you know, and I'm careful with the terminologies I use here, but I think my viewers are kind of aware, right? So because I don't want to get flagged. But basically, yeah, this all resonates with me. I'll handle the Florida, Audrey. Sorry for the little rant there.
Jim, I was noticing in your messages that you have a random string of letters in the middle of this message. Have you figured out what those mean? Or or is that just you just playing around, or do they have some sort of sequence that you haven't figured
What
out?
Audrey, what for Jim, his method is first he takes these 26 letter dice, and when he rolls them 5 times, that's where he gets this first set of the letters. It starts down here. This is where he first generates his, just writing down what the letters are from the dice rolls. Off of these letters, he then generates these words, these individual words, and then off the individual words, he's able to string them together into these messages.
Oh, okay.
That's why that's what it is it's kind of like it's a little out of order, but so he always starts it like this. It's like 1, 2, and then this is 3. And then off of 3 now,
Dude, you
given
get a
this,
computer to do this, and that's dangerous shit. Think about it,
okay.
you guys. Like,
And they do
you
that.
could, no, you could take the same concept, put it into a computer, run it through AI, and you could talk to different realities. And I guarantee it's being done right now, and it's been done for a long time.
Yeah, the problem I found with, uh, introducing the letters into a computer is a computer will spit out like 1,000 words, which is so many words you really can't make a reading out of it. So it's better to have a limited amount of letters and a limited amount of words and sentences.
That makes sense.
Yeah, this way it becomes more specific.
It's really
So the
interesting.
bottom of it, that's another message. Brian, do you want to read that, or Jim?
It's not really a message, it's just the words that are put together through the letters.
Ah, I see. Okay, and then you put it together. Now I'm
Yeah.
so I'm learning with everybody else here. I'm hoping the viewers understand as well. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now I'm understanding more. And
And
yeah,
then and then I was going to ask Audrey, given the last message, the first one we read, I mean, and then this message, right? This top part that the Egyptian writings, the speakers of royalty, freeing the innocents from the demons who are abusing them, riding in on a
Yeah,
pale
it
horse.
has very, very much dual meaning to it.
Yeah, if you can you speak to us about some of your insights, just the way Arkheim provided some of his off of the message that Jim here got?
One of the things that it's also talking about is we are the new speakers of royalty. We are now partaking the process of royalty in law. Well, I'm part of a royal lineage of my galactic origins, and I'm presenting universal law at the upcoming conference next week. So that is very interesting that that showed up right before the conference.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I can
wrote
confirm.
I wrote an entire book about the waking up of people becoming enlightened. And the title of the book is The Rise of the New Mythic Leaders, which means that it all comes down to the individual becoming enlightened and taking responsibility and making changes. I was wondering if I could explain to you how I teach it online.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing they do is they send me 2 photos, one of each palm, and I do a palm reading. And that way I get lots of references about their whole life. And then with those references, I do a dice reading and I send it to them. And then they buy the dice, they do the dice throws at home. They send me the letters and I decode the letters and then send them the reading.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Can-
it kind of works like this.
And Brian's done a reading with you, right?
I've sent several readings to Brian, and some of those readings have his first and last name spelled out in the reading.
And actually, and we did it a little bit differently because these are readings that Jim himself has done for me. I didn't get to participate yet, where I have my own set of dice, and I haven't sent him the results of any of my rolls. These are all from Jim, the master at it himself. So
Yeah, I don't always concentrate on a certain person. I just basically throw the dice and say, what do I need to know next? So if I decode it and it says Brian Tseng in the reading, to me, that means it's a reading for Brian.
That's great. This is it's absolutely fascinating, man.
Yeah,
I
there's
love
another
it.
thing that happens that I want to tell you about. The day before I meet someone, their name shows up in the reading.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow, that's incredible.
And sometimes there's a message, sometimes there's not.
Now
Okay.
I have a question for Jim. I know that you have artwork behind you, and I know some of the viewers might have questions for this, but the artwork behind you, is that fueled by some of your readings to do that type of artwork behind you? Did you create that type of art?
Yeah, there's one painting in particular where I depict some of the images that come from the vision I had when I was 19 years old, like with the building and the changing letters and the angel and all that. And I'm on my 4th painting right now. This one behind me, I don't know how well you can see it. It's called I See.
Oh, that's really interesting. I like it.
Oh, wow.
I'm sort of leaning towards mythology right now in my paintings.
It's super cool.
And then, interestingly enough, in a lot of these secret space programs and projects, these mythological figures crop up again. For example, in the case of John Whitberg and Project Ibis, the mythological being Sobek, who was an Egyptian river Nile god, looks like it was really a reptilian ET that humanity was kind of fooled into worshiping, if you will. And Project Ibis, related to the Montauk Project or Project Phoenix, and clones and time travel, consciousness transfer, seems to make use of these beings whenever they can. So I have a puppy whining in the background because his daddy's running off on errands.
Yeah, it turns out that most of the mythological images and entities like the centaur actually did exist at one time.
Yeah, they definitely did. I talk a lot in my testimony about these Satanists. They have a particular cult called Ordo Templum Nephilim, and they're really obsessed with the one particular centaur who existed, a famous one. His name was Chiron, and basically he was immortal, but he longed for death. He was wounded by an arrow, but he couldn't die, and even though he was a healer, he couldn't heal himself. And so there's this recording studio, Chiron Studios, I don't want to get into it too much, but basically it was like Dennis Pop and Max Martin, these huge producer guys that are beyond like the Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys and all these other different people. It's like all involved with like cloning, and like people can pay money to like spend time with like clones of them and do whatever they want to them, and like they use it for ritual abuse, which they harvest the energy and put it in the music and stuff like that. But so yeah, the whole centaur thing, it's interesting that you say that. And it's also true that like a lot of these creatures that that are mythological, the reason why they're in mythology is because they exist. We're talking about vampires, we're talking about centaurs, you name it, it doesn't matter what it is. Most of them existed. Giants, elves, orcs, you could go on and on. All this stuff, it actually exists. And it doesn't, you know, and as usual, our books and movies and stuff like that, they portray things as real, or excuse me, as fantasy, that there's stuff that like it that exists as real, and it confuses people because then they think those concepts can't be real. But that's a whole nother subject. But I find it fascinating that you talk about the centaurs existing in the past. I'm curious if you know like anything more about their people or their culture or anything like that.
I just know that at one time in the world, mythology was very big, and people sort of used it for reflection. But like everything else, the mythological aspect got hijacked. So then what happened around the 1930s was the creation of Superman, which is sort of like a reintroduction of the mythology of a guy that has super strength, and he
Mm.
comes from another planet. And you know, the S on his chest doesn't stand for Superman. It stands for the House of El, E-L.
That makes sense, because yeah, this has been a story that's been told throughout time. It's you know, what do they call it? The words are failing me, but yeah, it's something that you see over and over again that's repeated throughout time, of these like basically supermen who have super strength. They're taller, they're stronger, they're harder to fight in combat. And yeah, also they're usually, a lot of the times they're from the heavens or from another world or something like that. And so there's a reason why this mythology exists, and it, you know, a lot of the stuff is based in reality. And the House of El thing, yeah, that all resonates with me. I totally believe you. I'm wondering if either you or Audrey, what do you have to say about what he's talking about right now? I'm kind of curious into your thoughts on this.
Um, it's really, really interesting to hear how much mythology has changed over the years. A lot of people believe that some of the religion that we still believe in today are retelling stories of old religion, like extremely old religion. And one of the things is that if you look at all the different types of religions around the world, they all have the same variations of stories. They have the same variation of characters in their religion, but they have the same type of storyline, or the same type of storyline that's embedded in those characters. And you can see that throughout different cultures around the world. So if you take one very specific character, that character might have several different names across several different cultures around the planet, as well as many different religions, and it can all be traced back to, and you can try to figure out what the main storyline is. Um, One of the questions that I want to ask Jim, what type of dice do you use? Do you use more like wooden dice, or do you use more plastic dice to do your
I got
readings?
some right here, I'll show you.
Because I was wondering if that makes a difference in your readings or your predictions.
There's some dice that are better than others. Like I started off with the Boggle game, which has the letters on them, but I stopped using Boggle because the ink that they use wears off very quickly. But these dice here is from Campbell's Alphabet Dice Game, you know, like Campbell's Soup. They invented this dice game 50 years ago. And the thing that's unusual about this dice game is that for 50 years, people have been throwing these dice and playing this dice game, not knowing that they were pulling out thought desires from their subconscious, and that their thought desires were manifesting in the letters, and they didn't know it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, wow.
That's really cool. That's wow. That's fascinating.
So you get 36 dice when you order them, and you use 26. And I pick out certain letters to use more than others, like D, C, E, and I, and O, because those spell out dice code. So when I'm decoding the reading, I'm looking for words that say the dice code is telling you this. Another thing you can do with this method is remote viewing. When you throw the dice, you can ask the oracle to show you what the remote viewer is saying.
I was mostly wondering if you would think that this type of dice game is what created a lot of other type of games that we, play around or play, or this might be one of those games where you think this is where all the games must have originated from, because
Yeah, but when the people were playing this game and they were thinking of a certain word, then that word came up in the dice throw, they just thought it was a coincidence. And because they were thinking it was a game, they never realized it was divination.
Wow, that's incredible. Definitely ordering one of those as soon as I get off this interview with you. And I'm going to start using it with my tarot reading and stuff like that, and just kind of try to learn about it a bit more.
Yeah,
I have to take your class that you're talking about, actually. I'm definitely interested.
yeah, if you could send me 2 photos, one of each palm, I'll send you a palm reading. The way that happened was I was living in the Hare Krishna temple, and I was answering the door. That was my service. And I had a book on the desk explaining palm reading. And some of the people that walked in looked at the book, and they put their palm out like this, and they said, give me a reading. And I was only halfway through the book. So I'd say, I really don't know how to do it. I'm only halfway through the book. And they'd say, well, do it anyway. So I would start looking at their palms. That's how I learned.
That sounds like a good way to learn. Like a lot of things, just like be right in the field and have
Yeah,
like, like you got to do it, try it out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Good
just
way to learn.
start doing it, and you learn by doing.
That's how it is with everything. You just have to start doing it, and you get better and better at it, and you become a pro at it through experience. So yeah, 100%.
You
Yeah,
guys want to you guys want to do another one?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right. Within the voidness of timelines, rogue imposters are holding the secrets of the earthquakes through man-made technology, holding the knowledge of the frequencies both grounded and airborne. Those rogue imposters trespassed into territories not theirs, violating treaties of agreements divine in nature, violating trust and honor. Disgusting impostors annoying their neighbors in other lands, violating boundaries, holding prisoners, enslavement. They took our dignity and our righteousness, and we lost our harmonic balance, and we degenerated or denigrated into the abysmal emptiness of nothingness and darkness. We need to divine against these rogue imposters and regain our harmonic balance of trust and honor.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I could never come up with this stuff in the awake state. The thinking mind is indoctrinated, through education, movies, and videos, and what your parents told you, and teachers and authorities. But all the knowledge of the Akashic Records is inside us, and it's trying to break through to the thinking mind, but it can't because of this indoctrination. So what this dice method does is you bypass the thinking mind, and you access the subconscious, and the subconscious is connected to the Akashic Records. And that's where these readings come from.
That's so important. Hey, Brian, isn't there a presenter at the Full Disclosure Now conference that is going to be focusing on the Akashic Records?
Well, several, but Emily Harrison in particular, I think she accesses it not through the dice, but more
Obviously, but I
of it.
think it'd be
Yeah.
interesting for it to hear her and this guy talk, to hear
Oh
her
yeah.
talk.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like,
Well,
and
and that's something about the conference that we're really looking forward to is combining the different methodologies. Like, if a couple of you are good at remote viewing and someone else is an ET contactee and psychic contact with ETs, for example, and we've got what I call a hard case on the conference floor, someone who feels like they're a targeted individual and they're under attack and they can't figure it out. How great would it be to try to apply like 4 or 5 of you at the same time trying to tackle the same problem?
it'd be pretty incredible to see.
Jim, I have another question for you. Have you ever seen that angel again that gave you that vision or gave you that ability to start using this type
No,
of
I never had another vision after that, which kind of surprised me. But while I was in this 5D reality, I got the sense that there was like hundreds of thousands of ascended masters and spirit guides all around me, but I just couldn't see them. And in this realm, there was no guns, there was no money systems, there was no politicians, there was no wars, no conflicts. If you had a thought about being somewhere, you were just automatically there.
Yeah, that
can you
makes a lot of sense.
can you describe 5D Earth and what it looked like to you, or can you give it like a description of what it looked like to you? Like
Um,
like the
I,
environment?
I get a little annoyed when I watch a lot of videos and they're talking about 5D because it doesn't sound to me like they actually had a 5D experience. It sounds to me like they're sort of intellectualizing the idea that we're going into a 5D reality, which is true, but they're not really talking from direct experience.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about your understanding of what 5D is?
I was totally surprised when I had this vision when I was 19 years old. And it completely changed my life to the point where I can now remember every single detail of that vision today. And that happened in 1970. So, back then I didn't know what it was. So I went around asking, I was kind of associated with some Christian groups. And I would describe the vision to them. And they didn't have a word for 5D back then. They called it astral heaven.
Okay, that makes sense. So this 5D astral heaven, is that just a higher vibration, like a higher frequency, whatever you want to call it, version of Earth?
It's a place, once you've been there and you come back here, there's nothing attractive in this world at all.
Yeah, this lines up with a lot of different things that I've experienced myself and like also read. I had an experience where I talked to a being who was a Shiva being. I don't know if it was the Shiva because this was a female being, and she was the not like the Shiva that people depict or people know as male. So I think I think she said her name, but Shiva was like almost like a last name, like a surname.
Yeah.
Anyway, what she told me was she was my spirit guide and all this stuff, and she told me she was watching over me. And she said some stuff to me. She was like, so you want to like save the world, right? You want to like help the planet Earth, you want to save the world. I was like, yeah, I guess, yeah, I do. And she's like, well, you got to realize like it starts with you and your thoughts and the way you think. She's like, there's really only two actual emotions. There's fear and there's love, and then there's just different varying degrees of those emotions. Like hate is just a different version of fear, And, you know, like she's just explained that to me. And she said, you don't understand the power of your thoughts. Like she said, every single thing on the earth began with a thought. She was like, every gun that has been shot, every bomb that has been dropped, it came out of a place of fear. It started with somebody being afraid. It started with fear, and that fear manifesting and growing until it became reality and it became destruction. And she's like, you need to put yourself in a higher love frequency. And so this also leads up to some stuff that Brian's roommate Jaden has relayed to me about how Brian and I and other futures lead these massive meditation ceremonies. Because basically what she told me was like, there's a inside of our chakra, our root, like our abdomen chakra. She said you're connected to God through that. You're connected to everything through that. Like nothing's actually separate. It's all one. You know, that whole thing. And she said that if I were to imagine love, like warm feelings, just like positive energy in my abdomen chakra. And then imagine that as a literal physical ball of light. And then I imagine that growing and growing and growing and circling around me. She said it can circle my entire body and put me in a higher vibration. And she said then eventually it can circle the entire earth and put the earth in a higher vibration. And she said it can go as far as putting the entire galaxy into a higher vibration. That's what she told me. And she said the more people you do it with, the more effective it is. And she told me that I should lead groups and do that. And the first time that I ever actually did that in person was at Montauk at the ley line, and I just knew that it was the time to do it, and we did that ceremony and that ritual. So anyway, I don't mean to take the floor for so long, but like that experience was really profound to me, and it resonates with like everything you're saying about this higher reality. And I totally believe, because she told me, she's like, I exist like in the same reality as you, just like a higher version of it. Like it's hard for you to understand. Like it's a place of love, like a place where we don't have fear. We don't have all the stuff you have that causes destruction. You know what I mean? That's what she told me. And you're basically like, what I'm getting at, Jim, is every single thing that you've said in this entire interview, the presentations of the readings you've done, and the things you're explaining from the knowledge that you have, the wisdom that you're sharing with us, all of it resonates with me 100%. And the experiences that I've had.
Yeah, the female aspect of Shiva is called Shakti, and his wife's name was Parvati. And Parvati had 9 expansions of herself, one of which is goddess Kali, and there's another one called Durga. So whoever appeared to you may have been one of the expansions, like Kali, for example.
I think it was the Paravata, because I remember her explaining her name to me, and that sounds maybe like what she said. It was so long ago, it was like 15 years ago or something like that. But I feel like that, yeah, it was something like that. And she sounded, this is funny, but I could hear her in my mind. And if you've ever watched Star Trek, she sounded a lot like Deanna Troi. She had a really calming voice. And I remember another thing she explained to me too is like we don't understand that like sex is actually like an innocent and beautiful thing, like and it's being like turned into a fear thing, like they're putting fear and hate into it. That was another thing she explained to me. She explained it better than I can, but like relay what she said. That was
Jim,
another thing she said to me.
I have another question for you. You said that when you were in 5D Earth that you met ascended masters there. There were a lot of ascended masters. Did you approach any of them? Did they say anything to you? Did they deliver?
No, I could sense that they were there, but I couldn't see them.
Okay.
Another thing that happened in the vision was I saw myself standing at the foot of my bed at night when the angel appeared. And when I looked up at the night sky, I saw all the stars falling, which is an indication of a polar shift.
Oh,
Yeah, I hear
when
that
you
that's
mean when
coming.
you mean by pole shift, you mean like
Like
north comes.
if you were standing outside at night and there was a polar shift, it would appear that the stars were falling.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, man, Jim. Like we're friends now. That's all I gotta say, Jim. I resonate with you so much.
So
I
so
remember
I'm
having
trying.
visions of stuff like that when I was a kid. I don't need to say much more than that. I want to let Audrey go, but yeah, everything that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, whoa. So, but Audrey,
So when you mean by pole shift, do you mean like north becomes south and south becomes north, or do you mean that the energy field of Earth changes?
From what I understand, it seems to be leaning more towards an energetic polar shift right now rather than physical.
So is that like, is an energetic pole shift unsafe? Can it cause like repercussions and dangers?
Not as much as the physical.
Okay, so and you don't see a physical pole shift coming?
No, I've watched a lot of videos on this, and the general conclusion is that it's going to be more energetic than anything else.
I think that would explain the reason why we are seeing the Royal Borealis
Yeah, not only that,
near
but
where I live more.
an
Seems
energetic
like
polar
it's
shift
drifting
is
down.
more directly linked into consciousness.
Now, looking at this piece of art, because we were discussing your artwork as well as the dice divination. Here you've got an image that says "I see." On the very center of it, it's kind of like you got like it's almost like a very Illuminati-esque type feeling, and under that is like a caduceus type thing. And then
Hijacked symbols, right, Jim?
Yeah,
yeah, and then I see that the tuning fork is also prominent in some of your other pieces of art. I think that I've seen.
yeah.
But
The
then,
tuning
yeah,
fork is a reference to Renetta Jones, who did an interview on Typical Skeptic, and she was talking about I think it was a 520 hertz frequency, which when vibrated, uh, can only vibrate within a spectrum of love and not fear. And so I did a reading for her, and I sent it to her and I read it to her, and it was about her, talking about massive amounts of people getting these 520 hertz tuning forks and ringing them all on the same
The
day.
520 hertz?
is
I
it
think it's
520 or
520.
528? Let me see. I know 528. It might be 528 instead of 520.
Well, we'll have to. I don't mean to confuse the viewers. I'm not sure myself.
Yeah, starting from about 520 to 528 hertz and moving up is the harmonic frequencies.
I think it's this one. It's supposed to be one of these love tuner things, and I think it might be tuned to 528. I have to check. But then,
Moving
yeah.
forward, what is there anything else we should talk about here? We actually need to say before I forget, Jim, where can people find you? And we'll do this again, I guess, at the end, but I think that's important because you teach people how to use this kind of stuff. So basically, message you on Facebook, or do you have a website, or do you have an email that people can reach you at?
If you could leave a link to my Facebook page, they can get in touch with me there.
Perfect.
And I was just wondering if I could show you a recent painting.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead.
It's not completely finished, but I'll show you how it is so far.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
You're super talented.
Maybe one of these days you
Awesome.
might have an art gallery.
At the Full Disclosure Now conference.
And some of Jim's art is on the Typical Skeptic podcast storefront. Our friend Rob has collaborated with Jim to bring some of Jim's artwork to the people, and so I know you can find some of his artwork. I've got one of the pint glasses with your artwork on it, Jim.
Yeah, I have a link to Creator Studio, and they're selling T-shirts of my artwork. I'm not making the money, but the T-shirts there are only about $16. So what I do is I do these paintings and I submit the artwork, and then I order the T-shirts and I give them away as gifts.
Well, that's super cool. I like it. It has a warm energy to it. All your paintings, they have a very, very pleasant, warm energy to them.
Yeah, that one's called Vortex.
That's super cool. I could see these, like, they make great posters, you know, like you make a big old poster of that, like put that up in your home.
Yeah, I kind of stumble on this type of artwork almost accidentally because I do drip paintings where I take the paint and just sort of drip it on and let it flow back and forth. It creates its own painting. And I wound up buying a 36 by 24 canvas, and I decided not to do the drip painting because it was just too big. So it sat in the corner for a month. And then I figured, well, I'm going to try and do something different and try and put things in there like people and birds and animals and mountains and different things. I had never done that before. So this vortex is my first attempt at doing that.
That's really cool. Really, really cool.
It's got the blue and red kachina in it.
So, we've been here for about an hour. I don't think we have too much more ground to cover, but I did want to ask, did you have any questions for us, Jim? I think Brian might have been asking that there's some stuff that you wanted to talk to us about.
The thing that was on my mind is this idea that, you know, everything's collapsing right now. And I'm kind of wondering about how we're going to be able to elect like spiritual leaders that are going to help us to rebuild a new world.
Okay. Yeah, that's what arts we're gonna have to do another interview with you in the future when we have our kahunas together more or whatever. But basically we have a new channel, Audrey and I do, called New Earth Light Brigade, and that's essentially what we're doing right now is we know that the government of Earth is collapsing, and we know that a new government is being formed right now. And it's just kind of helping people understand that and helping people move forward. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's an honor to do the show with Audrey because I feel like she understands it a lot better than I do, the whole galactic process, and that's the whole reason why that's her presentation at the Full Disclosure Now conference is because she understands it really well. But essentially, that is what we're trying to do is figure that out. How do we elect spiritual leaders? And one thing I can tell you, really the only thing that I know from my experience, then I'll hand over the microphone to figuratively to Audrey. But the only thing that I remember is the government has to give a lot of resources and money to Native American tribes and put a lot of these Native American leaders into a place of power, and then also give them the resources to heal their tribes and stuff like that too. And a lot of Native American people become spiritual like shaman because they're they're it's part of their culture and their DNA and stuff like that, and they didn't lose their entire history, so they're good candidates to help us usher us. And they tried so hard to destroy their history and destroy their heritage, but they didn't. And so moving forward into the future, a lot of Native Americans and like indigenous peoples are going to end up being the leaders, and they're going to help form the new government of Earth. So that's really the only thing I have to answer your question in there is I've seen that in other timelines, and I've seen that because I have like alters. They fractured my consciousness and made like a million different versions of me that put with different personalities and names and everything that they put in clones and stuff. I'm gonna have to have my consciousness and my soul integrated. So we're actually gonna build centers for that, and ET are gonna come down and help us with that, and the native tribes are gonna help us with that. So I've seen the New Earth as far as that, and then I've seen also like these programs in other timelines. I've seen they do get disclosed and some memorials are built, and there's speeches that are given where people recognize what happened and kind of pay their grievances because it's not been allowed to happen yet. And so yeah, I have seen a lot of positive things referencing what you're talking about, but I'll give the floor to Audrey because I think she definitely understands this concept and all the ins and outs of it a bit better than I do.
Yeah. I really loved our conversation today, Jim. I really did. It was very enlightful. So, one of the things that we do want to talk about is definitely about trying to elect spiritual leaders and how to get them to be well known and stuff. But there is a lot of hurdles that have to be talked about, and there has to be a deep in-depth discussion about this because one of the things that we're starting to see with politicians is how do we prevent our spiritual leaders, if we're going to create this new earth, how do we prevent them from going corrupt? How do we prevent them from being, being like your bad politician and stuff.
I have a response. I have an answer. And this is for the Galactic Council too. Basically, all the people who've already been participating in so many ways to be the alternative solution to the lamestream satanic corporate media, like Dutch Sense, I would make him the head of NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, right? You take all the people who've already been showing the love in the community. Some of these guys like Steve, I forget his last name, but he's one of these financial guys tracking what's happening with the economy and the stock market. I'd make him the minister of the economy and finance, right? You make each person who's already stepped up in their ways and demonstrated leadership, and they're vibrating at the level of the mission. That's where your leadership will naturally emerge from.
Also, it's a transformative process, but when human beings become telepathic, which, we're more on the verge of than people realize. That's why they're putting so much stuff in our food and our water, and with the 5G signals and everything like that. Once humans become telepathic, it becomes harder for us to lie, which makes it to not just each other but ourselves, and it causes it creates a conduit for healing to occur, to where people are forced to face their demons, forced to face their issues and their traumas. And also it makes it harder for people to be sneaky and get away with doing corrupt and nefarious things, because people are more intuitive and can sense that kind of stuff. So that's a big part of it. It's just like, and one thing that we're going to talk about in our interview, which by the time this airs will have happened already, and you can look at it on our New Earth Light Brigade channel. But Audrey is going to explain a lot about how did that happen? Why don't we have a telepathic connection? Like, didn't we have one during Atlantis? Like, why do the aliens have telepathy and we don't? Yada, yada, yada. If you want to know about that, know why, it's a whole show. So that's why we're doing a show on it. And yeah, on our New Earth Light Brigade channel, that's the first show, is basically covering our history, and not to stay in that history and grieve it or whatever like that. No, it's to move forward and understand our place in the universe now and how we heal from that. So that's what our first show is about. And yeah, Jim, it looked like you want to say something.
Yeah, if you decide to get the dice and do the dice throws at home, I'll decode the letters and send you the reading. And then maybe later on, like in the future, we could do an entire podcast and show your reading and go through it and explain how it works.
Let's do that on the New Earth Light Brigade channel, and we can even have Brian on our channel if we want to sort of cross promote or whatever, since he's the one to put this together. But I feel like that'd be a perfect thing to do for our channel. Audrey, I feel like you'd agree with that one.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think it would be really interesting to do a couple of them on our show and see what type of messages they might have for humanity in the next upcoming future, or a couple of months from now.
Yeah, there's the painting of the Vision in 1970.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's all associations with 7.
You want to know another interesting thing? So by complete accident, some of our like emails and stuff like that, it's got 777. That was more purposeful. But our show, New Earth Light Brigade, is premiering on 7/7 at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 3 sevens. And I just find it really interesting that you're saying like the 7 thing is coming through a lot in your. So basically what I'm getting at is there's a lot of like almost prophetic energies coming through right now, I feel like, and I'm really glad that we did this interview, because okay, not to go on too much of like a rant, but I feel like it's important to say this. Like, the way things are, it can feel very doom and gloom, feel like things are gonna fall apart and break down or something like that. But that's I think that's what we're here for, is to explain to people that in this what the system that we have is so bad that it kind of needs to break down in a way, right? And when
Yeah.
it's gone, it's not like, oh no, what do we do? It's like, thank God we're rid of that. We can move on now. We can
Yeah.
like rebuild. So
Yeah, rebuild the world.
sometimes you just got to rip the band-aid off, and in doing that, that's painful, and that's what might be what we see here. But that doesn't mean that healing won't occur, and that it doesn't mean that humanity won't push through. I think it'd be extremely naive and self-deprecating to say that humanity wouldn't be able to push through what's on the horizon. Because we've accomplished so much. They just try to make us forget that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I really do believe that there's a bright future on the horizon, but we just have to assert our sovereignty, and it really is up to people like us, because if because like the normal people out there who are just kind of living their lives, working their jobs, not thinking about this stuff, they need people like us to be out here pushing these thoughts out there to make them more and more normalized, until the normal average Joe working an office job or whatever it is, they're totally familiar with these concepts and there's nothing weird about them and they understand them too. That's kind of the world that we're trying to build, is like this stuff isn't like magic. Like you can use that word, but it's not like fairy dust and pixie, dust or whatever. It's like this is tangible. There's proof. It's like you can almost like touch it and feel it. It's so tangible, right? Like what we're
Right.
talking about here with building this new world and using these methods to understand the universe, understand the future, understand ourselves. Like there is a lot of tangible proof and a lot of tangible evidence. You just need to have an open mind and look at it and see the truth. And yeah, it's in having an open mindset like that and an open perspective and a hopefulness that we can build this better future. It's really important that people start understanding that our mentality and the way we look at things is really important. And also just saying, hey, we never consented to the way things are set up now. We're not a fan of it. We would do things better if we could. To be able to assert that is to be able to make that happen.
I'd like to mention a line from another reading.
Go ahead.
The elite can't dance in this game of open veil.
And that's us.
That's right.
I'm sure you know a little of my story, but like I don't think that they are very thrilled at what I'm doing and who I am and what I'm talking about. And I know that they're still doing really weird, crazy stuff to me that it's a lot, but putting it out in the open and telling about people, I know they don't like that, and I know it makes them angry. I can tell you because they punished me for doing it before in these programs. I've woken up places and they're like, we know you're talking, and they like punish me for stuff. And my alters protect me and try to make me not even remember it, even though it's so bad, but I remember some of it. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on a rant, but basically, yeah, we're building a better future, and the veil is being lifted. That's what our job is here, is to lift the veil and to push through these fear frequencies with love. And the way I had it explained to me by this higher ET being when I was a child is, he explained to me that like hatred, and I mentioned this a little bit during the earlier part of the interview, but it needs an energy source. So it needs to consume things. And this
Yeah.
is why a lot of these people stab each other in the back so much and stuff like that are in these satanic groups and stuff. It's because that they need to consume and consume and consume and get more and more power. And there's only so much power and there's only so much like logs to throw in the fire. You know what I mean? So like eventually
Yeah.
you're out of stuff to burn. And what was explained to me is that like it can be a really long dance or like a really long battle, but in the end, this is going to sound so cliche, but it's true. I was told that in the end, love always wins because it doesn't need an energy source. It doesn't need something to consume. It's just there. And not only that, when it starts growing, it just grows. And a good
Yeah.
example is like when you take a dark room and you put a tiny little candle in the room, like if you've been sitting in that dark room for long enough, that little candle will illuminate the whole room and you can see everything in it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same concept. You know what I mean?
Dorothy has now torn down the curtain and we're seeing the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. And it's just all game. It's just all bullshit. You want to know the most funny thing? This is kind of random to me, but I really hope it's driving through to people's heads. It's sort of random, and I don't mean to not bringing up the debate or whatever, but I talked to my mom on the other phone, and she used to like be like a Biden supporter or whatever. She voted for him and stuff, and definitely made way too many excuses for the guy over the years. But She's like, he didn't even blink during the whole debate. She said that. I'm like, Mom, that's because he's not a human. Like he's not like a real person. And she's just like, huh. Like
Uh,
4 years ago, she'd be like, shut the front door. You need
yeah,
to, what do you know what I mean? And now she's just like, huh, like, like I think that's more common than people realize. And I just wonder how many other people, just like my mom, watched that and were like, that's not a guy up there. He's blink, motherfucker, blink. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I don't know. It's like, I know it might seem random, but no, that is hugely the veil being lifted. For my mom to realize, like, this guy's not blinking. This is weird. Like, that's big because she's very, very much so just, she's not going on super soldier talk or journey to truth or disclosure now. I mean, she knows about it from me. I'm her son and she believes in me and she supports me, but she's just a normal person. And I guess because I'm her son, maybe that's part of the reason why she's just like, huh, okay. But
yeah,
no, I think that's more and more of a normal reaction. People are just realizing this is all a game. Like I was talking to my partner who I thought when I was introduced to her family, they'd be like, you're the crazy UFO guy. Are you nuts? No, they're like, they didn't really bring it up, but casually you could kind of tell that they're just trying to sort of bring it up. And they're just like, I remember her dad being like, yeah, with these deep fakes and everything else, like, is that even the guy that's supposed to be talking on the TV? Like, and then all these agendas and stuff, but the media is all controlled by the same people. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't even see the point in paying attention to what they're trying to tell me anymore. Because how do I know it's even real? And once again, like I'm saying, a very run-of-the-mill, normal person. They're not going on spiritual websites or anything. They just live a normal life. They have a family. They hang out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and I just do think that like the normal people of Earth are like, yeah, there's something really weird going on. Holy cow. And it's the internet is a big thing, big thanks to it. Because think about it, back in the day, they were able to just control information so hardcore. And now when really weird stuff happens, like let's think, for example, the Miami Mall aliens. Remember that when like aliens just showed up in the mall and people started running and like
yeah,
there's actual footage of this stuff because people all have phones in their pockets and stuff. Like that's another example of where like if that happened in the 80s, which stuff like that probably did happen in the 80s. They'd be able to just not publish it in the newspaper, not talk about it on the news, and then it like sure, like it would become like this urban legend maybe that people would talk about, but other than that, it really wouldn't go anywhere. And think about how many urban legends we heard about when we were growing up. Like I remember my grandpa telling me about going down to Mexico and talking about chupacabras going through the villages and killing people and stuff. Like, and that was
yeah,
before the internet, and that's real. That's because it happened. So I don't know. It's just like, yeah, the veil, I think the veil is lifted hardcore. People like us and the people who are watching this, which thank you to all of our viewers, we appreciate you so much. They're just more like, okay, the veil is lifted now, and they're like, we want to learn what is going on out there. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
most people are just like, oh, the veil is lifted. Okay, whatever. I got to live my life still. I got to pay taxes. It's
Mm.
more and more people are finally like, well, no, I need to learn about this as time goes on, but right now people are just kind of in this stationary point where they realize they're living in this weird illusion, but they're like, okay, well, what do I as a normal person working at a gym or a car dealership or whatever it is they do, right? What do I do about it? You know what I mean? So sorry for the little rant. I ran a lot. I apologize, but I hope that the thoughts are appreciated at least and help make the conversation flow better.
yeah. I've always been drawn towards the idea of heading in the direction of inner vision.
Inner vision, can you elaborate on that and just
Yeah, it's
for as
like
long as
this
you want?
this idea with the dice method by bypassing the thinking mind and accessing the subconscious.
Yeah, so it's like once you access that, and that's how you're able to remote view. That's how you're able to go into the astral. That's how you're able to see the future or be intuitive is by bypassing your logical mind.
Yeah, and the thing that's different about this method is, unlike tarot cards, with the dice method, you get the names, the date, the time, the place, the street, the state, the country, and answers to questions and predictions of the future all at the same time.
Pretty wild, pretty insane stuff, and it seems incredibly accurate to me. Now you work with a lot of different clients, all across the board. You're seeing results, right?
Yeah, I taught the method to Tony Rodriguez.
Okay, so he's doing a lot of different, probably doing the same thing with a lot of different people as well.
No, he kind of gave up on it because he was, I think, a little bit too eager to learn the method so he could help his friends retrieve memories from the secret space program.
Well, can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, this is the kind of method where, like when you throw the dice, if you're asking for a specific question, you don't get as good of a reading, but if you just throw the dice and leave it wide open and just say, show me what I need to know next, then you get a better reading.
Okay, that makes sense. So
So
he
what
was
he did
me
was
being a little bit too specific,
he was being too focused on the idea of fulfilling his desire to help others.
which is not a bad thing. I mean, it comes from a
No,
good.
it's a good thing, but like it takes time to learn this method. Like I didn't have a mentor, so it took me 3 years to really learn how to ask the right questions. But I asked every stupid question you can think of for 3 years. Am I going to meet the girl? Am I going to win on a scratch ticket? What's happening tomorrow? They were all stupid questions, but after a while, it sort of hit me. I'm just asking the wrong questions.
Yeah, you're looking at it too 3D, too logical, when
Yeah,
it's something that exists beyond that level. And the hyperspace, which is what a lot of people call what you're interacting with, doesn't care about your desire to win the lottery or get laid by the new girl that moved into your apartment or whatever the hell it is that you're trying to manifest. It doesn't care
yeah,
about that. It cares about what you need in that moment, not what you think you need, what you actually need. Is that
yeah.
kind of what you're saying?
You have time and energy on your hands, so eventually you make a decision. So what the dice method does is it shows you the direction that you should put your time and energy.
Yeah. And, believe it or not, people trying to win the lottery or figure out how to get girls isn't what you need to put put your energy into
Yes,
as a
exactly.
human being. When you put your
Yeah,
energy
so
into the things that you need to accomplish, the rest comes with it. That's how the world works.
maybe next time I could tell you some stories.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk with you again. And like I said, I hope we can be friends now because I really love your energy. It feels like talking to a long lost friend, like I've known you forever. So super cool to meet you and talk with you. And Brian, the mover and shaker, the connector of dots. Thank you so much for introducing us all in this cyberspace and putting us all together. It's been an absolutely fascinating interview. I went into it kind of blind. I didn't really research you. I'm sorry. I've just been super busy lately, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because it helped it all organically unfold and you explain yourself and
Yeah,
yeah, everybody, like I said, my book, just to announce it again, it's available on Amazon. Pre-order link is there. And then if you want a physical copy, July 13th is when it'll be available. And then I have physical copies that'll be available at the Full Disclosure Now conference, and I can sign them for people too, of course, because I'm right there. Like I'll sign them for you. And really excited about the conference. And then of course the New Earth Light Brigade channel is connected to the Disclosure Now YouTube. It's like a sister brother YouTube. So check that out and check out our first interview and look forward to having Jim as a guest on that show. And we're just going to have another crossover. Well, basically the same thing be on that channel because of just the kind of content we're covering and stuff like that. I feel like it's appropriate. So, yeah. And just thanks everyone for being here. All the links that you need to get a hold of Jim and everything else are below. And yeah, I'm going to end the recording now. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a nice day.